Have you ever wondered what it was like to live in a state where it's susceptible to hurricanes and tornadoes? Um,
Today, we've just recovered from Hurricane Milton. And we wonder, have you ever thought about living in a state where you might have to encounter hurricanes from time to time?
in this video, we're going to talk to you about what that's like.
We get calls every day from people just like you asking us questions about our area here on the Treasure Coast, what it's like. So whether you're moving in a few days or a longer time, we'd be so happy to hear from you and help you in your search.
Yes, because we want you to be fully informed so you can make a decision whether or not Florida is right for you. And we're going to talk about our area, the Treasure Coast, Port Saint Lucie, what it's like to live over here. And hurricanes is part of life living here in Florida. And we've moved to Florida in 2007. We actually met in Florida in 2007. I came from one part of the United States. I came from Maryland and my wife came from Massachusetts. But we met in Florida in 2007, and we both came here for a Bible school. You know, we want to put that out in the open, so you know, we are people of faith, and it was very nice, you know, to come from a place where you have cold weather and snow and ice and stuff like that, to come to a place where we don't have snow.
But it was challenging too, because we arrived here in July. And I didn't know that it was a rainy season. And so pretty much every afternoon around 3, we got a deluge of rain. And I wasn't used to that, and I didn't come prepared with an umbrella.
One of the things that I liked myself was when December came along, because if I was still living up north, man, we'd probably have snow, ice, scraping windshields, and all that kind of good stuff. You know, but being down here, coming down from up north, Christmas Day, I was in the ocean down Miami Beach swimming, calling home to my family up north and saying, guess where I'm at? I was in the ocean swimming on Christmas Day. That was a big plus for me to be able to, you know, go swimming and enjoy the beach all year round.
And it was a great amazement to me too, to see, you know, I had to wear a lightweight jacket for maybe a few weeks, a month at most. And by February, early February, mid-February, it was warming up again.
Yeah, none of those heavy coats, gloves, hats, none of that.
No boots, no slush, no mush. You know, it was, I really enjoyed it.
And right now, with it being October down here, we're still having some pretty good warm weather. But around December, January, February, we get a little bit of a cool spell. But nothing real cold and freezing and ice and all that kind of stuff.
No, and we don't rake leaves around here either. We do pick up palm fronds and seed pods that fall out of the palm trees. We pick up those things, but honestly, I'm still glad that I don't have to rake leaves.
So you're wondering, what does all this have to do with real estate, talking about storms and hurricanes and everything? Well, we're gonna let you know here in a minute, because it affects a lot of different areas of the real estate business. But you know, like I said, we came to Miami and we met in Miami, and then in early 2009, you know, after the Bible school, we had met. You know, we got married. We moved to Fort Pierce, Florida. And we came up the coast here about 2 hours north. And since we've been here in that area, we've lived through about 7 hurricanes ourselves, many different tropical storms and tropical depressions. You know, we went through Tropical Storm Beryl in 2012. 2015, Hurricane Matthew came through, and it was supposed to be a devastating storm. It was coming through to Fort Pierce. They said it was going to hit us head on, and it just kind of went up the coast, but it did cause a lot of flooding and stuff like that. We came out our door in the morning, you know, water was almost up to our steps and everything. And
yeah, it was a little frightening seeing the water up that close to the house, but
because the street looked like a river.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of devastation on our street.
But we did fine. When we went to the street next to us, there was a very large tree that was knocked right across the road. So that was a big challenge for the folks on that street.
Yeah, the power lines were down. During Matthew, we didn't even lose power. I mean, our lights blinked and went out for maybe 20 minutes or something like that, but then they came back on and we didn't lose power through the rest of that storm. And, and we were very blessed and fortunate during that one because like my wife said, when we went to the street behind us, trees down, power lines down, it looked like a war zone. So that's just how it is when you're living in these areas. And so just stick around, you'll see some of these photos from our area from this storm Milton that just happened.
One of the things that you should know is that our communities are always updating things to make it better for going through storm periods. In that last Hurricane Matthew, there we were living in a community called Indian River Estates, and they've been working for years on improving the water flow so that it doesn't flood in that area. And even this year in the house that we're in now, they just put all the electrical wiring underground to get rid of the poles, getting rid of another potential problem for a storm.
Yes. And then in 2017, Irma came through and it hit on the West Coast. And what was amazing about that, we just happened to go out there for vacation over by Naples, Florida, and everything was just beautiful, just lovely. And we came back over here, and about 2 weeks later, Irma hit. And then we're just seeing the images on the news, how the bridges going out to Marco Island and different places over there were totally gone, underwater, wiped out. And it's like, wow, we just traveled over those bridges, and now they're gone.
Yeah, and a lot of the people, if not most of the people on the islands there, left because it was a severe damage, and a lot of people had to make insurance claims, which caused a lot of insurance companies to leave Florida.
Yes, and that's how these storms and these disasters affects real estate down here. It causes insurance to go up, insurance companies leave the state.
Yeah, we are very thankful that we have Governor Ron DeSantis working on the case all the time. He's working to make sure the insurance companies don't leave Florida, that they come back, that they're reasonable prices for people. But we also have to, in real estate, you also have to balance out what are people paying for taxes and what is the cost of the home. It has to be a good balance for real estate to work.
Yeah, and that's one of the risks of moving into a state that's susceptible to these types of storms and everything, because it affects every area of real estate. You have to know when to shutter up your home. Like we're sitting in our home right now. We still have the hurricane shutters on. This is a day after the storm, because we got to clean up a few things and this and that. But you got to put your shutters up. You got to protect your property. You got to think these things out before you come down here and just want to move down here. It's a total different lifestyle from living up north or somewhere else in the country.
But no matter where you are in the country, there's always challenges. When I was living in Massachusetts and we knew a storm was coming, we had to make all kinds of preparations for that too.
Yeah, especially blizzards.
Right. Knowing if a blizzard was going to come, you had to make sure that everything was cleared out of the driveway. You parked your car a certain way so that you could shovel as soon as possible.
Yeah, we don't have to be concerned about blizzards down here. I remember a few years back, we went up to visit our families. We kind of took a month off and went up around Christmas time to visit both our families, my family in Maryland, my wife's family in Massachusetts. And the whole time we was up there, it seemed like it snowed every day. And I just, we want to be honest with you. We don't miss that at all. As a matter of fact, the blizzard was heading toward Boston while we was up there, and we left. at the beginning of it, even though my mother-in-law, bless her heart, she wanted us to stick around, but we knew we had to get out of there and get out now, and the whole city got snowed in for like 2 weeks. There was no movement while they were cleaning all that snow out. And that's one of the benefits of being here in Florida. We don't have that type of weather down here, but we have a different type of weather. And that's what we're talking about today.
Right. It's just learning to adjust to a new kind of weather.
So in 2019, Dorian was a big one. And they said it was going to hit the Treasure Coast head on, said it was going to hit Fort Pierce straight on. But some devastation happened for the Bahamas at that time. This hurricane just come over top of the Bahamas, and it parked there for like 18 long, grueling hours.
Right. It was a very, very large storm covering the whole main island there, and it just stayed put for 18 hours.
Yes, and our heart went out for the people of the Bahamas, and they were saying that hurricane, that storm was going to hit Fort Pierce head on, but a miraculous thing happened when it got up our way.
It came right up towards Fort Pierce and then jumped out 40 miles and headed north again.
And then it lost some power and everything before it did eventually make landfall somewhere further north, I think around North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And then Ian hit in 2022 over in Fort Myers, and that caused a lot of devastation. It was a really, really major storm when it hit over there, and Nicole hit on this coast that same year up around Vero Beach, which is about 45 minutes to an hour north of us. But it doesn't matter where these storms hit; you always get the backlash of rain and everything. And so we always got a lot of rain. But when Ian hit, it caused so much devastation. We know a realtor over on that coast, and she was having a hard time getting the insurance money for her home because her roof got ripped off and everything. And that's how these storms affect the real estate business. They affect the insurance industry and everything when these insurance companies got to pay out major dollars like that.
There was so much devastation that virtually all of the insurance companies pulled out of Florida except for Citizens Insurance, which is the last resort. But we have a wonderful governor, and he always is working on our behalf to get those insurance companies back and also to get the rates at a reasonable rate so that people can afford them.
Yeah.
And so, yes, real estate is a balancing act. People have to have taxes that they can afford, insurance they can afford, and the price of the home that they can afford, and live with that over changes.
And you have to factor in, to have some money on hand or cash on hand. If you're going to move down here, that's the risk that you have to take of, maintaining your property and having to care for it when these kind of disasters hit.
One of the things you can be sure of, though, is our communities are always working to improve the situation so that we will be able to handle the next hurricane or whatever better.
Yeah, and that brings us up to date here. Helene, 2024 Helene just came through over on the Gulf Coast side, and it came through and did a diagonal up across the states of the United States there, went up across Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, really caused a lot of devastation in North Carolina and some in Virginia. And our hearts go out to those folks, and then right on top of that, 2 weeks later, here we are at Milton, they were saying Milton was going to be a Category 5 coming across the ocean. It wasn't across the Gulf. It was a Category 5, but right before, it hit, it made landfall, it dropped down to a Category 3.
Yes, and then it came across the state to us, and by the time it got to us, it was a Category 1, which was amazing. So,
but what made Milton so devastating was the storm front that was out in front of the hurricane itself. because that storm front brought with it tornadoes like we've never seen before. They were just dropping everywhere, and we had a lot of devastation right here in Port Saint Lucie and the Fort Pierce area, the Treasure Coast area, from these tornadoes just dropping with that storm front. They were dropping, and
hitting different areas, different spots. We have friends that live in a mobile home area up in Fort Pierce, and somebody in that campground lost their whole RV. It was destroyed, but it didn't devastate all of the campground.
Yeah, and this storm front spawned more than a dozen tornadoes in our area, and unfortunately, there were some fatalities up in one community, which was a mobile home community. Like I said, again, this is the risk we had to take because the hurricane caused a full evacuation on the West Coast because it was hitting on that side, but we didn't have to evacuate on this side, on the East Coast side of Florida.
Mm-hmm. But you just never know, if you stay in your home, it's just, you're taking your chances, but you're taking your chances no matter what part of the country you're in.
And not only did we see some fatalities there at this mobile home community, it's unclear how many people actually passed away during that and how many's hurt. But also the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Department, their garage, the big garage where they park their vehicles, it got destroyed by a tornado, and it's just sad when your emergency responders, they get hit really hard at the beginning of this thing as it was coming in, but they still did a very good job getting out and helping people and everything.
And one of the things that should be noted is that some of these structures that were hit, the police garage there, it was a metal building, so it was fairly lightweight, and when you get winds of over 100 miles an hour, it can take out those kind of structures. And which is why many people prefer concrete block homes and one-story homes here in Florida.
Yes, and also, as you can see from the pictures going across the screen, there were homes where they were just destroyed. There's automobiles, as you can see in the pictures. Automobiles flipped upside down. Like my wife said, motorhome, fifth wheel flipped totally over. Cars flipped up on the roofs and everything. Vans flipped over. Devastation to houses. Streets flooded. You can see all this in these photos that's showing up on the screen here. Governor DeSantis said there were at least 19 tornadoes was confirmed at the beginning of the storm, but there were more than 115 tornado warnings that went out, and we won't know for sure how many tornadoes actually touched down until they get all that information in, from the National Weather Service that'll be coming down here and doing their reporting until they can put that together and figure out how many actually touched down. Even though all this devastation was happening around us, again, me and my wife, we were very blessed and very fortunate through this one here also. We didn't lose any power. I went out in the morning, there was a couple, things blown over, a small palm tree blown over in our front yard. No one else on our street suffered any real damage or anything. But we had a friend who lives maybe a couple miles from us in another mobile home park, and they suffered
They had a little more damage than we did because they had a tornado that went through the park there and leveled. I saw at least one very large tree was down, and a few of the lightweight metal structures were.
Yeah, because he said he was sound asleep, and all of a sudden he heard this big boom, and it woke him up out of his sleep, and he went outside, and he actually did a live video on Facebook, and he was walking around the neighborhood, and they're looking, and they're seeing like parts of other mobile homes and different things, roof structures and stuff. It's like none of the none of the homes on their street was harmed. And that's the problem with these tornadoes. Tornadoes will pick something up and then it'll take it somewhere else and drop it off somewhere else. It can do that with cars. Whatever is in its path and it picks up, it's going to move with it until it drops out of the tornado. And that's just devastation in and of itself. You know, we got a Category 3 hurricane hitting landfall 3 hours away from us, and we got all these tornadoes going on from the storm front causing all this other devastation. But, you know, that's just one of the risks that you have to take living in Florida. And I wouldn't give up my life down here for anything. We really like living down here.
And we find that our community is very supportive, and we're always working on ways to improve. You know, this year they took all of our power lines down and put them underground in our whole area where we live. And so, you know, these are all things that could be potential problems in a hurricane or a tornado. And so they are always improving on these things.
One of the main reasons we put up a video today was not to show you the devastation and have you to feel sorry for us, but it's to inform you of what goes on down here in Florida so you can make an informed decision whether or not Florida's right for you. But one of the main reasons we posted this video, because we're asking you, the rest of the country, our fellow Americans, even people in other countries who may see this video, we're just asking you to keep Florida in your prayers. The same way with North Carolina, all the devastation that just happened from Helene, as we're praying for all these other communities. And, you know, just remember us and say a prayer for us.
And we just thank you. You know, that's one of the reasons we love our country. In times of crisis, we always pull together and help one another. And that's a great thing.
So we want to thank you for watching today, and we hope some of this information was able to help. If you have any questions or anything, our contact information is in the comments below. Please do us a favor, subscribe and tap that bell so you can get notifications and always be informed of what's going on down here in South Florida. And until we see you next time, this is Living on Florida's Treasure Coast.